Hey, yo, what up? I'm Josh Martinez of iHeartRadio, Z100, and the Superstar Crossover Podcast with my guest, Wardlow of AEW. What's going on, man?
What's up, man?
Chilling. We were talking off air about the weather and how different the weather is going to be this week in a good way. Seasonal depression is real, right? Like
Heavy. I question why I live here sometimes.
And you're up in Cleveland, Northern Ohio, right?
Yeah, Northeast Ohio. Not fun.
So how was it like growing up in Cleveland as a sports fan?
Oof. Yeah. So the Indians were Cleveland's saving grace as far as my childhood is concerned, because the Browns, well, they're always the Browns. Hopefully that'll change here soon. The Cavs weren't any good until, LeBron came. So as a child, we had the greatest baseball team in the history of the league with Albert Bell, Kenny Lofton, Manny Ramirez, Sandy Alomar Jr. I mean, we had the true all-star team. And I remember like McDonald's, like you would go to McDonald's and they had like the baseballs with like their faces on it. And then there was one that they all signed. So I remember collecting all those. So it was really big Cleveland Indians based as a child.
Do you still have that baseball somewhere in someone's house?
Somewhere, I believe, in my sister's basement. Yes.
There we go. Love it. So when did you become a wrestling fan?
I became a wrestling fan before I could really remember. There's home video of me somewhere before I could speak with this giant, big rubber Hulk Hogan action figure and this big rubber Junkyard Dog action figure. And I'm using the seat of the kitchen chair as my wrestling ring, and I'm just clanging them around. So it was instilled in me at a very young age. My earliest memory is watching Bret the Hitman Hart. And as far as I can remember, Bret Hart was my first feel of like true love for the business. And that's how it started.
So do you remember your first ever wrestling event that you attended?
Yes, I do. It was a little later in life. I think I was like 12 or 13. We were finally able to afford some tickets, and they were literally the last row of the arena. I mean, we were we were all the way at the top in the nosebleeds, and I had bad eyesight and I didn't have glasses at the time, so I'm pretty sure I didn't see any of it. But just being there was so exciting, and there's a picture somewhere of all of us sitting up there screaming as The Rock came out. And man, I remember it like it was yesterday, that feeling I had.
Was it a live event, a televised event? Do you remember that?
It was on Monday Night Raw.
Oh, that's a good one to start with.
Yes.
My first show ever was a WWE house show at Madison Square Garden because my best friend Matt failed a class, so his mom made him give me the ticket as punishment. So,
oh no,
yeah. So shout out to my buddy Matt, who is a groomsman in my upcoming wedding. So I still owe him that.
Yes, you do.
And but I grew up like, I don't know how your childhood was, but mine was like I was poor. So like that was my first real opportunity. When did you just nodded? Yeah. When did you realize like, oh, maybe we aren't at a level where, let's say, the average kid might be?
Dude, that's honestly, I feel like I've always been in this sense very mature for my age. And I was always told like by older kids, you're so mature for your age. And I always hung out with an older crowd. Like I never went through that, like believing in Santa Claus and all that stuff. Like I just knew as a kid, like I just knew what reality was. Like we didn't have a chimney. And even if we did have a chimney, that fat dude ain't getting down it. Like I never believed in Santa Claus, Easter Bunny. Like I just knew. And same with growing up poor. Like my mother, bless her heart, made sure we never like truly felt poor. Like we always had clothes on our back. We always had food, even if it was just, a cheese sandwich. But, we were never, I never felt like I was struggling, but I knew my mother was struggling, and I could see that at a young age. But I just knew, like, the car we had or the house we had compared to other kids, or, kids going, leaving school for vacations. Like, where's Katie today? Oh, her family went to somewhere. Like, what? Like, that's crazy. So I knew, I was aware of it. But I never let it affect me. I was never sad about it. Like, my mother always made us feel rich, with love, I guess. And I had a great childhood, man. So I can't complain.
It's funny because I literally went to the block that I grew up on in Brooklyn yesterday for the first time in a very long time. And I don't want to say luck because it sounds bad, but there was an emergency in one of the apartments. So me and my fiance was able to get into the building without having to ring a bell. And just walking through the hallways, there was a flood of emotion for me personally to see how far I've come. Have you had that moment where you kind of have that stop and smell the roses to realize this shit is different in the best way possible?
I don't know if I've had that like single moment where it really hits you like that. Mm-hmm. I will say I recently moved out of the little country Amish town that I was born and raised in. I just recently moved closer to the city of Cleveland. Like I'm right outside of Cleveland now. And going back and driving through that town, there was a little bit of that, feel that you're describing, driving through that little town, like, oh man, we made it out.
Have you kind of pinpointed that one or two people in your career that have been like MVP? Like, can you legitimately say, without one or two of these people, I would not be in this position right now?
Cody Rhodes. Man, honestly, there's a few people. I would say QT Marshall, Cody Rhodes. I might have to tip my hat to Britt Baker for bringing my name up multiple times to them. As far as me being here at this stage in AEW, it was really a big thanks to those guys.
Now, who would you say has been the most important to your character development over the last 12 to 18 months?
Billy Gunn. I'd say exactly? Billy Gunn has been my coach for the majority of my time in AEW. So every single match, so he's been my coach. So every match, he always has had a piece of advice for me. Every single match he's given me, even if it's just one little tweak, he gives me something to work on for next week. And I love it. I literally obsess over what he says for a whole week. And then I get to correct that the next week. And that's honestly was exciting for me to do, to just like know that I'm bettering myself every week and challenge myself to work on these things. So I would say Billy Gunn, but then also before we imploded, the members of the Pinnacle. Obviously, Max and I have had a falling out. Obviously, Spears has completely lost his mind. Fortunately, Dax and Cash still are intelligent enough for me to associate with, and they all still help me big time.
So you get all these coaching tips, and then you watch wrestling. Can you not enjoy wrestling nowadays because you're watching it in a completely different realm?
I feel like I'm pretty good. At least I try to be good at separating the two. Sometimes I watch specifically to study. And then there's times I watch specifically to be entertained. So I feel like I kind of have a nice balance there of I'm able to kind of plug in and unplug when necessary.
So last night was actually WWE pay-per-view event Backlash. Were you able to watch that and enjoy it? Did you even watch it?
I did not. There's a couple things I will go back that I'm just curious. Probably, I think a little bit's from an entertainment point, some of it's from a learning aspect, but there's a couple things I'm going to go check out.
Well, also, I mean, you have friends, right, that are in the company. So at that point, it's like, I just want to support a friend and check things out. Or if maybe you see a tweet, right, and you're like, okay, these Twitter fans are ridiculous. It can't be that bad. And then you watch something back, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. You know, I mentioned Cody. Mm-hmm. I feel like him going there has been the reason I've kind of, you know, watched a little bit, you know, because I got into the business late. I really don't have that many friends. I don't have many friends in general, you know, by choice, but I really don't know that many people over in WWE. So I don't like, there's nobody I watch on WWE that I know personally other than Cody. So him going back has caused me to watch a few things just to see what he's doing over there.
Of course, it's a friend supporting a friend. Yep. So this is the Superstar crossover podcast as well. And my last guest was Drew McIntyre. And he had a question for you.
What's the best piece of advice you ever got? I think the best advice is just to have fun, to be yourself and have fun, because you get so, at least me personally, and I know a lot of people are the same way, you get so wrapped up. Like before a match, I'm so intense. And like, it's just insane the feeling that comes over you. And you have to remember, like, I try to take myself to the backyard. It's like, remember when you used to just go in your backyard and you know, it was just fun. It was just the funnest thing in the world. Now, obviously, when I was doing this in my backyard, my livelihood wasn't at stake. My paycheck wasn't at stake. So obviously there's a lot more pressure, but at the end of the day, I'm just doing what I love. And I have to remember, like, man, just go out there and have fun. And it's only happened a few times, honestly, where I've been able to do that. But the times I have been able to have been magical. So that's still something I'm working on.
Do you have a question for our next guest?
I would say, man, a question for the next wrestler. How do you prepare? Like, how do you deal with dieting while traveling? Like, how do you maintain a healthy diet while traveling so much? Because that is challenging. Yeah, it sucks, man. You know, fortunate now, I know those guys have a little more of a strict schedule. You know, our schedule isn't too insane. So I really only have to pack, you know, food for a day or two, which is, you know, it's annoying, but it is what it is. You got to do what you got to do. But yeah, I always travel. Tuesdays, I always travel with a lunchbox.
Do you have a favorite fast food joint or a go-to fast food meal?
Five Guys cheeseburgers, man. That is my ultimate cheat meal. And I love pizza.
Living in New York City, growing up in New York City, I can attest that pizza is amazing. Now, I will say I did spend some years in Dayton and Cincinnati. Pizza was slacking. I'm not going to lie to you. Jets pizza is not a real thing. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. It's hard to find good pizza around here.
But luckily for you, this Wednesday night, you're going to be on Long Island. A lot of tremendous pizza on Long Island in New York City. How excited are you to come back to the New York area?
Dude, I always love the New York area. I mean, the fans in New York are just insane.
We're the best.
And Oh my God. It's so loud. And the things they chant are always, they always come up with some sort of unique chant, and it's always full of just surprises. And man, that crowd, it's a special crowd, man. Now I will say we're stepping into MJF's backyard, so I don't know how that's going to go for me. That seems to be bizarro land. So we'll see how that goes.
What's been your favorite moment so far in the New York area, whether with AEW or maybe something in your personal life?
Oof. So I had my first WrestleMania experience was actually New York City. And I got to see Bruno Sammartino get inducted into the Hall of Fame at Madison Square Garden. That was very special.
WrestleMania 29.
Yeah. Watching Bruno get inducted at Madison Square Garden is probably one of the coolest moments. For me personally, even though I didn't perform on the show, just AEW at Arthur Ashe Stadium in Queens was about as special as it could get. And even just to be a small part of that show, accompanying Max to the ring, was insane. The size of that building, sold out. I mean, the struggling for words. I mean, you can't describe that large of a stadium with that many people, that loud. That was extremely special.
So I also have a part of the show where I like to call it the "Where were you when?" Right? So I just say, "Where were you when?" and you let me know where you were. So where were you when you found out you were going to get a full-time contract with AEW?
I was at the Nightmare Factory.
Did somebody physically come up to you, or was it a phone call? Do you remember?
Yeah, man. So I was broke, jobless, living at my parents' house. And I woke up from a nap because I had nothing else to do between gym sessions. And I had a phone call from QT Marshall. He said, "Hey, if you fly yourself to Atlanta, we'll take a look at you." I booked a flight that day. I borrowed some money, booked a flight. And, QT, who I had never met any of these guys. QT picks me up from the airport, brings me into his home, and lets me sleep in his home, never meeting me. Just going off that, what, Britt Baker said, I'm a good person, and they just went with it. And he took me to the Nightmare Factory. Cody comes walking in. QT and I work for not even 5 minutes together, just freestyle. And Cody offered me a deal right then and there.
Was it something specific that Britt Baker said? Was it maybe Britt was the final straw because there was another 5-6 people who put your name out there? Do you know the backstory behind that?
That's exactly what it was. It was really just the perfect storm. The timing, Britt mentioned my name to Cody. A couple people from Warrior Wrestling in Chicago contacted Cody about me. And then Glacier, who was helping those guys run the Nightmare Factory, he did a seminar at IWC in Pittsburgh, which was the indie promotion I worked for. I was the champion over at IWC. Lloyd or Glacier came in to do a seminar, did the seminar, came to our event the next night, watched me perform. He contacted Cody. So it was like, okay, I keep hearing this name Wardlow. Call the kid. If he'll fly himself here, we'll take a look at him. And then the rest is history.
But I think it shows a lot that they tell you, hey, come down here to see how much you really want it. Beg, borrow, and steal, if you will. Just get to Atlanta somehow, some way. Figure it out. If you really want this, you'll figure it out.
And that's exactly what they were doing. AEW, obviously, most of the people they knew, right? So like we know they can work. We know they're a good person. They're in. So I think somebody with me, that's unknown, they, had to put me through a couple little tests that I aced.
How exciting has this current program been for you? There's a lot of thought put into this. There's a lot of foresight put into this. I mean, literally a year or so in the making. How exciting is it that this is your first legitimate solo program and it's a top dog spot?
You know, I truly wholeheartedly believed that once I had the opportunity, it was going to be big. And I think even this is exceeding my expectation. I mean, I couldn't have wrote myself a better future than what I'm currently living. Or I guess I should say I couldn't have wrote a better reality for what I'm currently living. I wouldn't change a single thing that has happened or a single thing that is happening right now.
But from a mental health standpoint, do you do anything to kind of bring you back to an even surface if you're feeling too high or too low?
Oh boy. I always have something to take me away from the high. I try to be positive, but I think I get nervous when I feel too good, if that makes sense.
Because you're waiting for it to fall apart.
Yeah, when and you probably know, you sound like you might have had a rough come up. When you've been through so much bad in life, and historically, when things finally feel like they're going right, and then it's just right back down the drain, you start to get worried when you feel good. It's like, okay, I shouldn't feel this good. Something bad is around the corner. And I know people will yell at me for thinking that way, but that's life. And I think it's important when you feel like you're the man and life is going perfect, you got to remember, like, all right, be humble. I know how quickly all of this can be gone. Snap of a finger, career over, all of this could be gone. Fortune, fame, all of it. So I stay humble and I appreciate everything. And I most definitely am good at keeping myself in check.
How dope was it to see the photo of yourself with the handcuffs and the group around you, knowing that that was like a same exact Superman shot that you posted on your Instagram? When you saw the side by side, what was the first thought that came to mind? Or was it shot purposely for that reason?
No, that's what's crazy, man. Manifestation is real. So nobody even knows I'm a huge Superman mark. Like, I have a bookshelf full of comics. I just watched Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman the other night. Like, nobody knows that. Like, this was completely unplanned, and just all of a sudden I'm watching Man of Steel and I go, this looks real familiar. And I pulled up my picture and I'm like, I'm like, not only, like, I grew up, everybody thought Goldberg was cool. Now, there's a lot to be said about Goldberg and his wrestling abilities and whatever, all that shit aside. The character Goldberg in 1999 was awesome. Dave Bautista was awesome. Brock Lesnar is a monster. You grow up like, I want to be that guy. Like, they're the monsters. They run the company. They're the most popular. Like, that's what I want to be. Superman, obsessed with Superman. Now I'm opening up Twitter and there's comparisons to Goldberg. There's comparisons to Batista. There's comparisons to Brock Lesnar. There's side-by-side pictures of me and my security and Goldberg and his security. There's side-by-side pictures of me with my security with Superman and his security. I open up Twitter every day and my mind just explodes. Like, all of this stuff just happened organically. I didn't come in saying, hey, I want to mimic Superman. Hey, I want to mimic my favorite wrestlers. No, this just all happened organically. I didn't come in wanting to do power bombs, but here I am doing power bombs that I did for years because I was obsessed with Kevin Nash. My friends were getting jackknife power bombed on trampolines all day long. So here I am power bombing people. It's absolutely insanity. How my life has come to this.
Have you had the chance to meet one of your idols or had an idol reach out to you via a DM?
So the only one, so Jeff Hardy, that's another one I didn't mention. Here I am doing swanton bombs that I did millions of on trampolines throughout my life. So Jeff Hardy is the only one that I've had the opportunity to talk to and thank. And I'll share a cool little moment. After I did the swanton against Lance Archer last week, I'm in the locker room and Jeff comes up, gives me knuckles and goes, "That was a nice swanton, very graceful." And I stood there with this smile on my face for about 10 minutes, speechless. So to have Jeff Hardy compliment my swanton bomb was absolutely insane. But I would love the opportunity to meet and thank. I was able to meet and thank Kevin Nash, so that was cool. But I would love to meet and thank Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Dave Bautista, just to thank them for years of motivation and continuing to motivate me. Dave and Dwayne are two men that still motivate me and I look up to this day.
How could you not? Jesus Christ. Rock is out here buying football leagues and being in movies and shit. How do you not look up to that guy?
Yeah, I mean, the things that those two men have done with their careers in Hollywood, and Batista is now Marvel Comics, like that's incredible, man.
Legit.
To be able to cross over into like DC Comics or Marvel, or anything in Hollywood, and buying football leagues. That's just wild, man.
Yo, do you realize that there's a section of people that know Dave Bautista as a Marvel guy and no idea that he was a wrestler?
That's wild, right?
It's For us, like diehard Batista, wrestling fans, it's like Deacon Batista with the box. That's what we remember first, right?
Dude, and I could talk about this for hours. I know we don't have time, but like you look at that. Like, look at how Dave Bautista's career started. Silent in that suit, that same suit, silent every week. I was in that suit, silent every week. And then Evolution, Pinnacle, him and Triple H, me and Max. It's just crazy.
A lot of parallels.
Yes, it's weird, man.
And who knows, maybe this Wednesday night on AEW Dynamite from Long Island, maybe you have your powerbomb through a table contract signing moment. Batista did it to Triple H. Maybe you could do it to Max. I'm just throwing it out there. Maybe this Wednesday night.
The thought of power bombing Max makes me drool. It's literally, I obsess over it. I cannot wait to power bomb that kid. I'm going to power bomb him until my arms go numb.
I'm expecting, I think the record's like 5. So let's try to get to 7. How about that?
Oh, we're gonna blow past 7.
You know what? How about 1 year? Well, one power bomb for every year the Indians have not won a World Series.
Let's do one power bomb for every year the Browns haven't won a championship.
As a diehard Yankee fan, I'm still bitter about 1997. All right.
Oh yeah.
Well, one more time, Wardlow, I appreciate you stopping by and giving us a couple minutes, man. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Hey, I did notice, I just want to say, whether, I don't care if this goes on air or not, but one of the questions was, where were you when the Cavs won? I was downtown Cleveland when the Cavs won, and I've never seen anything like that in person in my life. Dude, absolute chaos downtown.
And you may not ever again, unfortunately.
Sad but true. Hey, I'll bring a big title home to Cleveland one day. How about that? Maybe pretty work. Platinum. Yeah.
Hey, maybe they could book a pay-per-view at the I know it as the Gund Arena. It's the Q now.
I know it as the Gund Arena. No, it went from the Gund Arena, then the Q. Now it's Rocket Mortgage Field Stadium.
That's what it is.
It's garbage. It's the
Gund Arena to me, and I'm not even from there, right? So I can't even imagine what it's Gund Arena and Jacobs Field.
Gund Arena, Jacobs Field, no question.
So that's our Ohio chatter for the day. One more time, Warlow. Appreciate you, bro.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.